have the industrial straight stitch machine. This machine is fully automatic. The needle and presser foot lift is all operated through the pedal, and it really is the workhorse of our shop. We're able to do the most with this incredible machine. Let's take a look at a few functions of this machine. So first we've got our manual presser foot lift back behind the head. We've got our really convenient little reverse button just above the needle. We've got our stitch length knob over here from 1 to 5 millimeters. And we do not have a stitch width option because this machine does not stitch zigzag. It only stitches forward and backward. Finally, we have a large manual reverse over here and our hand wheel to move the needle up and down manually all the way on the right of the machine. Let's start by turning on the machine and learning to thread. We'll start here at our thread tree, bringing our thread up and back down. So we're coming down to the first tension disc, and we're going to thread through the hole and around, putting the thread in between those tension discs. Great. Then we're coming across the machine to the next tension disc, and again, we're placing the thread through each guide and through the discs. Great. Okay, and coming down through the next set, reaching up for this hook and down for this hook. Through one more guide up top and just following it down. Finally, we're going to thread the needle left to right. The hole should be facing sideways so that we are threading toward the body of the machine. So we're just going to slide that thread through. And there we are. Perfect. Okay, now that we've gone through how to thread the machine from scratch, we have a simpler way. We're going to lift the presser foot on the back of the machine here and actually just pull through, now that we've released the tension, our new color thread. So I've knotted off a white thread up above, and now we're just going to carefully, slowly watch as that white thread goes through each step and then comes down to the needle head. There, we'll just snip. And the only part then that we have to redo is actually placing the thread through the eye of the needle. Otherwise, that's a lot faster and a lot simpler than having to thread all the way from scratch every time we want to change a color. There we go. Industrial machines work with a bobbin and a bobbin case underneath. So we've got our bobbin here and our case that we'll place into the bottom of the machine. We're going to drop the bobbin in with the thread unraveling counterclockwise and then thread the tail through the opening and then down through this little arm there. Now, to place the bobbin underneath the machine, we're going to place our thumb right in this arm that lifts up because it keeps the bobbin from coming out, and then we're going to lift up the head of the machine to place it underneath. Okay, we're looking at the underside of the machine here and the opening where the bobbin case is going to be loaded. We have our bobbin inside of our bobbin case, and placing our finger under that arm to keep everything in place, we're going to snap that right in. We are loaded and good to go. Now let's lower the head and get sewing. So let's take a look at the moving parts of the machine here. We've got our needle, our presser foot, and the only function here is our reverse. So we're going to take a look at how to replace the needle and change out the presser foot. We're going to start by turning the machine off. We want to be very safe because these are very, very powerful machines. So anytime that we're going to be touching any moving part, we are always going to turn the machine off and remove our foot from the pedal underneath so that there are no opportunities for movement. So the needles that we're going to use for this machine are a size 75/11 and DB ×1. So we've got one little screw on the right side that will allow us to release this needle. So we're just going to release that screw enough so that the needle can slide out. We don't need to take it out all the way. These screws are very small and we don't want to lose them or drop them. So just enough to let that slide out. And then any time that we're replacing a needle for any reason, that needle is now garbage. So that needs to be thrown away. So we've got our new needle. And we're going to look for the indent. This is our only indication of what direction the needle is facing because our shaft on these industrial needles is totally round. There's no flat section like there are on home machine or domestic needles. So we're going to take that indent that if we can't see, we can feel with our fingernail, and it's going to face the right. So it's going to face the body of the machine. The placement of this needle is really important because if it's not positioned correctly, it won't sew at all. So again, the eye of the needle is facing sideways to be threaded left to right, and the indent is facing in to the right, toward the head of the machine. Then we'll just tighten that screw back up and get our thread back in through the eye, and then we'll be ready to go. Next, let's take a look at the presser foot. To replace the presser foot, we're going to start by just loosening this screw right here. So we're just going to give this guy a little spin and lift up our presser foot. And it should be able to lift right off. So loosen as much as you need. This is a larger screw, so if it needs to come all the way off, that's fine as well. And then just take our little guy off to the side. For putting the presser foot back on, same operation, we're just going to hold it in place while we tighten that screw back up. All of the low shank feet that are replaced on this arm will screw on the same way. And there we are. And we'll release the presser foot so that we're back to fully automatic on the pedal. So let's take a look at how to wind a bobbin. We're going to wind the bobbin on the top of the machine, but we need to take out a bobbin case or bobbin that's underneath and make sure that's out, and take the thread out of our needle. The needle is going to continue moving while we're winding the bobbin, so it's really important that there's nothing underneath or through the needle that's going to impede it. Now, let's snip off our thread right up here so that we can leave the majority of our machine threaded. And now that we've got our new thread knotted to the old thread, we're going to just pull straight through, bringing that new thread color down through this tension disc and threading it onto our fresh new bobbin. We're going to take the thread and come up through one of the holes. This just helps it begin threading correctly. And then place the bobbin right here on this spindle. We're going to move the arm in, and now we're just going to press the pedal. Again, as a reminder, the needle is going to move. So we've got all of this thread here, but we've got the thread out of the needle, and we've got our bobbin and bobbin case out from underneath the machine. And now we are ready to slowly start winding. All right, and as we see that it's catching, we can take a little snip of this tail and speed it up. As we're winding, we want to make sure that the thread is going on evenly up and down the bobbin. And we can see here that the tension is good and the threading is clean. It's not getting wound up on itself. It's not getting knotted or uneven. All right, these industrial machines do not cut off on their own, so you'll need to watch until it looks like it's about full and ready to be taken off. Now we're just going to go ahead and snip, pull our bobbin off, and then we can actually rethread the machine just by taking our tail from the front of the machine and tying it on to our new bobbin color that we just wound. So that's actually really easy. Once we knot this off and pull this through, we can load our new bobbin and we'll be ready to get sewing again. Now that we've threaded our machine, wound our bobbin, and loaded our bobbin, we are all set to sew. So, like I mentioned, the entire machine functions and operates through the pedal. So underneath, we can operate the presser foot by lifting and pushing our heel back halfway. Then we'll insert our fabric underneath, and by slowly and carefully pushing our foot forward on the pedal, we begin to sew. Now we've got our reverse function right above the needle here, so we can reverse and sew forward. And then when we get to the end of our seam, by pushing our heel the entire way back, we actually are chomping off the fabric, the thread underneath the fabric. So it's a really cool function because it's efficient, it's convenient, and we don't have to pull the garment out and cut those threads. So again, we move just by pushing the pedal forward, reverse as we need, and then when we get to the end of our seam, we push our heel all the way back. And if we hold it, you'll notice that the presser foot will stay up until we release that heel and bring our foot back to neutral on the pedal. And that is all this machine does, forward and backward.